New information tonight on the man who showed up to the Wisconsin Capitol building armed twice in one day looking for Governor Tony Evers.
Yeah, 43-year-old Joshua Plesnick says he moved out of the state now to Nebraska, and he claims that he had no intention of hurting anyone.
And Plesnick was charged with a misdemeanor and released on bond on Friday for that incident back on October 4th. He alleges he wanted to tell the governor that law enforcement would not listen to men who were abused by women. That, according to the criminal complaint released last week and confirmed in an interview today with the Associated Press.